Hey everybody, Vincent here. Just need to go over a couple things before we get to this week's episode. Number one, we spent half the episode talking about the custody battle, as it were, over Spider Man between Disney and Sony. Now, this episode's coming out a day later than I anticipated, and since then, some new information has come out about the whole Spider Man issue. But we will be talking about the new information on next week's episode. But I still hope you'll enjoy what we did discuss because we had a lot to go over. Because even before this new information, there was so much to go over, just crazy, crazy stuff. Second thing is, unfortunately, when we were doing the episode, we had an unforeseen settings fluke, so the audio is going to sound a little off. We cleaned it up a bit, but you can still hear us and all the topics we're going over. Okay, and with that said, let's get to this week's episode.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the POVincent podcast here on the River's Edge Online Radio Network. I am your host, Vincent Didiano, giving you my point of view on movies. And with me, of course, is my buddy, my pal, my comedic comrade, the human megahorn, Eric Williams. Eric, how you doing, baby?
I'm doing great. Wondering if you spend every pre-show trying to just unwrap a whole bag of Starburst with your mouth. That was quick, man. That you come out of the gates and like bam, 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 words and tongue movement.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I want to make sure I'm on point. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to talk to tonight. Our movie review for the evening, as you can see up on the screen, will be the new action movie starring Gerard Butler and Morgan Freeman, Angel Has Fallen. However, ladies and gentlemen, we saved the movie reviews for the end of the episode because tonight there's something a lot bigger we need to get to. Eric, you know what I'm talking about?
Is it time? Is it
Eric,
time?
Eric, unless there's something else you want to get to first, which I think the other thing is like we got AC back in the studio now. It's air conditioning, which is really nice. It's nice not to roast and sweat when you're talking about shit.
Don't feel like we're gonna get murdered this week.
No,
we're
we
not gonna
don't.
get written into a horror story and die heated in a haunted studio music venue? Yes!
Yes, you did. Yes. You got all three. Which has there ever been a horror movie with a music venue? No? Fuck it, doesn't matter now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the news that is destroying the internet, that is literally turning people against each other. Almost
melting eyes.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we gotta talk about Spider-Man. All right, we gotta talk about it. So as some of you, most of you probably know by now, because it's like I said, it's the biggest story on the internet right now. The agreement between Sony Studios and Disney and Marvel has broken down, and it appears that Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, will no longer be allowed to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it is just fucking nuts, man.
You know who I'm most disappointed in?
Who?
In all of this?
Who?
Our friend John Sheehan.
Why are you bringing John into this?
Because I thought he had assured me that, like, I thought maybe I'm mistaken people here, but I thought he told me that Marvel flat out owned the rights to Spider-Man now. That is not the case.
That is not the case at all, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
So before we get into the story, let's do a little bit of history. All right, let's do a little bit of history. As we all know, the fondly remembered Sam Raimi directed and Tobey Maguire starring Spider-Man films. We got three of them: Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3. Fortunately, due to Spider-Man 3 having a lot of problems that a lot of fans and critics had issues with.
It was shit. It was shit on a shoe, lit on fire, and used to beat an infant portopus to death.
Yes. If you want more details on that, check out my other podcast. We haven't done in a while. Silver Screen Stand-Ups. Very first episode, me, Eric here, and our good buddy comedian Zach Funk, who has his comedy album out, Brains Are Weird. Please go check it out, buy it. We did an episode of Silver Screen Stand-Ups where we watched Spider-Man 3 and tore it apart. So if you want more details on the horribleness that was Spider-Man 3, go check that out. You can find it on our Facebook page, and you can also find it on the River's Edge SoundCloud page under the POVincent playlist.
But portopus, by the way, half tortoise, half platypus.
And then after that, Sam Raimi, the director of those films, wanted to do another one, a Spider-Man 4. Unfortunately, Sony decided that they thought it'd be best to just reboot the franchise, which shocked the shit out of a lot of people. And that's when we got The Amazing Spider-Man starring Andrew Garfield.
You mean the most misappropriately titled Spider-Man?
Here's the thing, I will defend The Amazing Spider-Man 1. I actually enjoyed it. It's not the greatest Spider-Man movie ever, but I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people don't, but honestly, I think it gets a little more shit than it deserves. Definitely got some problems, but overall, I thought it was a decent Spider-Man film.
I'll agree with you. I think they threw people off. I heard Amazing Spider-Man was supposed to be more Ultimate Spider-Man.
Well, there's definitely elements of the Ultimate in there.
Inspired. I think what threw people off was they were like, Peter Parker's too fucking cool. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, yeah, because in that one, here's the thing. The whole, like, nerd renaissance had happened at that point, so nerds were cool now, right? And they're like, but nerds are too cool. Peter might be too cool if we make him a nerd, so let's make him an emo skateboarder type. And then people are like, that's not how Peter is. And that's right, Kermit the Frog had something to say about it. So that threw people off. So I've got to say,
it's easy being green, and Sony fucks up Spider-Man a lot.
Yeah, but though I will say, as I said before, I think Andrew Garfield was a decent Spider-Man. Now, Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was once again Sony making bad decisions, where they once again were trying to fit too much into that movie, and even worse than what they did with Spider-Man 3, they were trying to use The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as a springboarding film to do all these spin-offs.
How do you fuck up a movie with Emma Stone and Jamie Foxx in it?
I don't know. All I know is that Jamie Foxx, there's a scene in that movie where when Jamie Foxx gets his supervillain powers, it closes the gap in his teeth. It has nothing to do with his powers, and yet it is there. I don't know if it's supposed to be something visually symbolic of maybe the closing off of his humanity, perhaps. I don't know. I'm going to say no because even I think what I just said was stupid. So,
I mean, I'm just impressed that a franchise managed to kill off Dennis Leary and somehow make the series worse.
Yeah. Dennis Leary. Anyway. Actually, don't hate him. That's fucking. I like his little scene in Demolition Man where he goes off. But anyway, we gotta stay track on Spider-Man. So what happened? So Amazing Spider-Man didn't do well enough at all. He still made a ton of money. To its credit, it's all the Spider-Man movies have made a ton of money. Now they all haven't done $1 billion like the recent Far From Home, but they've all, from what I understand, they've all done at minimum $700 million. So that's still gotta respect.
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. Now the problem, like we said, Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm gonna let some air out of your balloon, man. But now, like we said, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was supposed to be a springboarding film for a whole bunch of films. Most famously Venom, which we got eventually anyway. But they were wanting to do all this whole kinds of things. I think there was a Black Cat movie. There was a Sinister Six movie they wanted to do. I think even Aunt May was supposed to get her own movie at one point. There was all these rumors as to what all the spin-offs were supposed to be.
Well, yes, but part of that, I could be right. Was that all planned with number 2? Because part of the thing, okay, maybe I'm screwing up the timeline here, but so just eventually.
Keep it at Marvel. There you go.
Eventually, the leasing rights happened, and what I had understood was that a number of those movies were being pursued, or maybe Sony was like, "Hey, Peter Parker, you can use him for shit, but everything else is just us," which is part of the reason they were going to try to do that Ant-Man and all that stuff. It would just be them, and they would get all of the money. And I was like, okay, yes, like Marissa Tomei was a nice casting choice, but you're going to do a movie just with her and no Peter? What?
Yeah.
Once again, what is that?
The only two that I remember being confirmed were Venom. They definitely wanted to do Venom. They definitely wanted to do Sinister Six. Everything else was kind of like, maybe? Could we do this? But anyway. And just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people asked back in the day, why did they make Amazing Spider-Man so quickly after Spider-Man 3? The reason is, if you go too long without using the character, Sony would lose the movie rights. And I want to make that clear. They have the movie rights to Spider-Man, all right? But Disney, who currently owns Marvel, they can make a Spider-Man cartoon if they want to without Sony's permission. So just to be clear about that, they only own the movie rights. But anyway, so once again, Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't do well. And Sony.
I want to be clear. When you say cartoon, you mean like television, like TV cartoon.
Yeah. They could not make. Only Sony. If it's
not make a theater release animated.
No. Yeah. Correct. Thank you for clearing that up. In case anybody got confused, if it is a movie, live action, or animated, only Sony can do it. If it's television wise, Disney can get away with that because Sony does not own the TV rights to the Spider-Man character.
You know what this reminds me of? I'm gonna make a reference you're not gonna understand.
Okay.
This is Carmelo Anthony's last contract, where the New York Knicks had just made the postseason, and he was like, "I'm going to sign the team that gives me the best chance of winning." And he signed with the Knicks, which is never the team that gives you the best chance of winning because they offered him the most money. Sony just had their biggest film success. Period. Like, I mean, Far From Home, but even before that, Into the Spider-Verse, people were like, "Oh my gosh, Sony did something mostly on their own and didn't fuck it up." And they were like, "We're big boys now, we can run without diapers," but they can't. And they're rejecting the deal, and it's a mistake that is going to bite them in the ass like the rest of Carmelo Anthony's NBA career. Done with a reference you don't understand.
Okay, I kind of blacked out during the sports sections of Eric's little rant there, but I think I understood what he meant. But yes, to complete the little history lesson, because Eric did bring up some points, but we also got to clear some shit up. So, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Can I finish? Or? Okay. I want to make sure you're happy. Amazing Spider-Man 2 did not do well. Sony's plans were like, fuck, how are we going to do this expanded Spider-Man universe? And that's when Disney/Marvel came in. They came to Sony and was like, guys, listen, see you're struggling with Spider-Man, okay? We see that. We're kicking ass over here with the Avengers and shit. We just did Avengers 2. Didn't do as well as Avengers 1, still made a fuck ton of money. All these characters were doing great. Let's make an arrangement. We'll help you with future Spider-Man movies, but in exchange, we get to use Spider-Man in other films and stuff. Let us help you make better, solid Spider-Man films, and we can both profit and make this work. And to the surprise of the fucking internet, it worked. Because it really was an unprecedented business dealing. Spider-Man...
An unholy union.
Yes. The Spider-Man franchise, whether you're talking about the one with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, is Sony's most profitable franchise. It really is. And so then to like say, yeah, we'll share this character, was astounding. And we first got our new Spider-Man, Tom Holland, which I like Tom Holland a lot. I think he's a great Spider-Man. I always look forward to him. We first got him in Captain America Civil War, but not until like halfway through the film, but he made such a great impression that we're like, fuck yeah, I'm ready for a new Spider-Man movie with this new kid. Then we got Spider-Man Homecoming. Fuck yeah, great movie. Then we got Spider-Man popping up in Avengers films, playing more of a supporting character, but still, it was cool to see him. And then, of course, recently, we got Spider-Man Far From Home, which made on its own $1 billion, becoming Sony's most profitable film ever, surpassing James Bond's Skyfall film. So, yes.
Wait, time out. Sony has the James Bond franchise now?
Yeah, I think they work with the Broccoli family that started the James Bond thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a deal. But now that brings us to what's happened recently. Now, before we talk about this, let's lay down what the original Disney and Sony deal was. Let's lay this down here. Now listen, a lot of this information we're going over is in the original Deadline.com article, which we have posted a link to that article on the POVincent Facebook and Twitter page. So if you want to be checking out this article, so you know it, go ahead, go to our Facebook and our Twitter, check that out. So the original deal is that in terms of movie profits, Sony gets to keep 95% of the movie profits. Disney keeps only 5% of the movie profit. Disney will loan some producers, such as Kevin Feige, who is the head of Marvel Studios, and some creative people like writers and stuff like that. Sony will cover all the production costs. However, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing to keep in mind. In terms of the merchandising profits, Disney keeps all of that. All of that. So for everyone who's thinking that Disney made a bad deal with a 95-5 split, when you take in merchandising, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put it to you this way. To quote Mel Brooks' character Yogurt from the comedy sci-fi film Spaceballs, merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made. All right?
Well, wasn't that actually the reason that Marvel was kind of able to make this deal happen?
Yeah.
Because as I understand it, when Sony bought the rights Marvel has retained the merchandising rights the entire time, which opened the window for Marvel to be like, hey, can we lease Spider-Man back, please? And then save Mr. Bell.
Yeah, as far as that detail, I'm not too sure. I just know that all the merchandise and that merchandise. That's a lot of money. That's all the toys, T-shirts. If Tom Holland's Spider-Man is on something, they get the money for that. So every time you drink that commemorative like Spider-Man Homecoming Coke or Sprite or whatever the fuck that is,
And motherfucking toys.
motherfucking the toys alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you, as a man who grew up during the 80s, all the toys had a show tie-in, not to sell the show, but to sell the fucking toys, okay? So keep that shit in mind. The 80s were very profitable for toy makers, and they learned their lessons well from that decade. Star Wars, G.I. Joe, those are some of the big ones back then. And, so yeah, now when it comes to movies like Captain America Civil War and the two past Avengers films, Disney gets to keep all the money from that. They really don't have to share it. But all the solo films, they have to give 95% goes to Sony. So that's a really great deal. Sony gets Marvel's, mojo, and they get to make their films, and they get to keep all the great majority of the profit from the solo Spider-Man films, and they get to have their Spider-Man part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which boosts their Spider-Man even more. It was a great deal for both companies. It really fucking was. And now things have changed. So basically what happened is we learned a few days ago that Disney wanted to rearrange the conditions of the deal. And it was first reported that Disney went to Sony and be like, we want to split the movies 50-50, right down the middle, half and half. And at first it seemed like Sony said, hell no, fuck you, we're just going to take Spider-Man back and go back to making solo films without you, Marvel. And people are like, what the fuck? And when you first see that, that's like, okay, wait, hold on. Disney was obviously doing some negotiating tactic, throwing out a big number, expecting Sony to come back with like a smaller number, not expecting to get the big number. Happens in business dealings all the time. But then it was reported that Sony actually did come back to them with a few alternative offers, including a 30-70 split, which it still means that Marvel/Disney would be getting 6 times more than what they were getting before. Still a really good fucking deal.
Also, just under a third of any Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's like, especially if Sony isn't asking for any portion of the merchandising, like that's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Marvel and Disney would keep the merchandising.
And as I'm understanding from the things, like Disney wasn't offering more production money. Sony's covering the production.
Yes. But another thing that came up is that Disney said, we want to co-finance it with you. And some people, when you hear that, you're like, co-finance? Okay, so they are taking care of some of the money Disney's going to pay. Well, here's the problem with that. If they co-finance the film, that means Disney would start to earn a percentage of the Spider-Man intellectual property, which means they would partially own Spider-Man along with Sony. And Sony was like, no, we don't want to do it like that. So it came out when this all came out, and I see people still doing this online. So I really want to make this clear, ladies and gentlemen. People said, oh, it's happening again. Sony's ruining the Spider-Man franchise. They're going to kill it all over again. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to tell you, but no, Disney's really being the assholes in this situation because they're asking for way too much. And I know people's like 50-50. Well, they worked so hard to make Spider-Man work with Sony. They should deserve more. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I agree. In the past few years, what they've done with Spider-Man, I don't think it's out of the question for Disney to be like, hey, we want a little more. Look at all the success we've had and the way it's worked. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine if they wanted a little bit more. Honestly, I say, yeah, they probably deserve it. But 50-50 with co-financing is just completely unfair in my book. I'm sorry. I know, listen, I know in recent years, Sony's film division has been looking good. There's been some movies coming out. I mean, the whole fucking Ghostbusters debacle. We can do a whole other fucking episode about that. But
look, what pretty much happened here in this scenario is Marvel is Thanos and Sony is Gamora. That's pretty much what's happening.
Well, I would say more Disney because I don't know how much the Marvel studio. I mean, Marvel
yes, Disney. You are correct.
Yeah. Now, the only thing that could add to that the first version that you said, is that apparently what's also been said, a lot of this has to do with producer's credit. Kevin Feige, excuse me, Kevin Feige was one of the producers on both Spider-Man: Homecoming and Far From Home. If you don't know who Kevin Feige is, he's the head of Marvel Studios. Everything that's happened in the past decade has been because of this man running things. So credit to him, Kevin Feige. Holy shit, you've done great work. I don't know if Kevin Feige was pushing for more producers credit, because it sounds like they not only want producer credit on future Spider-Man films, which he was already going to get, but other properties like Venom 2 and apparently the upcoming Morbius vampire film, which Sony is doing, which is another one of those movies that Morbius the vampire is a Marvel comic books character and a Spider-Man villain, and it just looks like is Kevin Feige, was he pushing for this? Because if this is just over producer credits, things seem to be blowing out of proportions. But from what the information we've had from the Deadline article and other articles that have come out in the past couple of days, it really does seem like Disney, for whatever fucking reason, made an outrageous, demand. And ladies and gentlemen, I understand, it's so easy to blame Sony because they've made some bad decisions in recent years, put out some dumb films. But honestly, it really is Disney acting out of hand. And keep in mind, Sony did come back at them with a counter offer, several of them. The one that's apparently been most noted is, instead of a 50-50, a 30-70. But the co-financing thing, where like Disney would now partially own Spider-Man, and then that would cause Sony to start to lose control of Spider-Man. And once again, Spider-Man is their biggest character, their biggest franchise that they've made a fuck ton of money on over the years. And keep in mind, once again, I get it. It's Sony, but Sony still made good Spider-Man films without Marvel. Into the Spider-Verse, fantastic. Spider-Man 1 and 2 under director Sam Raimi, good films. And once again, I will defend Amazing Spider-Man to a degree. Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, I really can't do much there. I really can't.
No one can. No
Yes.
one can. Peter Parker couldn't save those films.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. So this gets into another kind of subject of it. People bring up, can Sony make good Spider-Man films without Marvel? Now, as I said, they have made good Spider-Man films in the past. A lot of people right now are pointing to Spider-Verse as a great example. Here's the thing. Spider-Verse was its own thing. It had its own starting point. If they're going to continue with Tom Holland, which Tom Holland is at least under contract for at least one more solo film with Sony, at least one more, maybe two. I've kind of heard some, back and forth on how many, what he's contracted to do. It's one thing to start fresh and new with Miles Morales and Spider-Verse and all that, but to continue on with Tom Holland, because if they don't renegotiate the deal, that means the next Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, they can't mention any of the Marvel characters that Spider-Man has interacted with. They can't mention Nick Fury. They can't mention Happy Hogan. They can't mention Doctor Strange. And they can't mention Iron Man, who was a big part of this new Spider-Man's mythos. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on continuing, if they were to continue with Tom Holland? What are you thinking, man?
How would Aunt May have a love life without Jon Favreau? I mean, I mean, I understand things from Sony's standpoint. I think the real thing here is the critical thing is if the divorce goes through, if it's final, they're done. So,
yes. Real quick, it should be noted that there are reports that initially was reported that it was a done deal. They're separated. There are other reports going on that the dealings are still ongoing, that they're still talking and trying to work it out. So it's not confirmed that it is a done deal. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
So if it does become confirmed, the thing that Sony will need to do is what they did so well with Into the Spider-Verse, which is despite not having. Are we sure they didn't have any Marvel resources for Spider-Verse? None at all?
As far as I understand, no, Sony did Spider-Verse all by themselves. Which, keep in mind, they brought in Lord and Miller, the guys behind the Lego movie, which had a lot to do with the success of that film.
And they brought in Alex Hirsch, who, for those who are unfamiliar, he's behind the wonderful Gravity Falls.
Love that show.
You still haven't seen it.
No, I'm midway through season 2.
Finally, Vincent! Finally! I want to throw up a rainbow right now. That's how excited I am.
Don't make me laugh screaming to the mic. It's not cute for people. Yeah, no, I love that. I know I'm several years behind, but yeah, Gravity Falls, if you haven't seen it, it looks like a cute little kids cartoon, but it is great for kids and adults. I highly recommend it.
It's Twin Peaks for young adolescents.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But so Alex, like they got a great team of people who had like the perfect voice for what they're doing. Like both the Lego movie was a children's merchandising movie that fucking nailed Joseph Campbell's Heroes with a Thousand Faces hero's journey. And Alex Hirsch just has a voice for talking like adolescents. Like I think he was largely responsible for a lot of the Miles Morales dialogue.
Well, maybe that would make sense for Miles was such a success because that was a bit of a risk. You know, if you're a comic book fan, you know who Miles Morales is, and he's become a very popular character in his own right. He's not just Black Spider-Man. He's
Spider-Man.
He's Spider-Man in his own right. Peter Parker's still out there, but Miles, it's like
in a different universe.
Yeah, even though Miles is in the main universe right now. Because they destroyed the Ultimate Universe and he survived it. So I don't know that.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Him, his parents, and Ultimate Mjolnir. I think they were the only survivors. Until they broke that too. But unless they reforged it, I'm not sure. But yeah, that was a risk because unless you're a comic book fan, the general public, they don't fucking know who the hell Miles Morales is. So it was a risk to make the focus. Peter Parker was still in Spider-Verse, but it was old and grumpy Peter.
The brilliance there was that they made it Spider-Verse and not Miles Morales, even though it's clearly like a Miles Morales movie, but it allowed the movie to be, hey, here's all the other aspects of the fucking Spider-Verse, everything that has been Spider-Man. Like, try it out, as well as, future college dropout Peter Parker.
Yeah, I mean, having Peter in the film was definitely essential because they're doing the passing the torch thing. And I think that definitely would help people, like Miles. But Miles is a good character, as is. They definitely portrayed him as, I think, as a pretty realistic teenager. And the whole, like, him fumbling around with his powers and, like, him having to prove himself. And even Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham and Eddie Parker, who show up more than halfway through the film, even they were memorable. The movie just did a great job with everything. So is it possible for Sony to make another good Spider-Man movie by those? The answer is yes. But how are they going to explain, if they do another live action with Tom Holland, how are they going to explain why Spider-Man how are they going to pretend like the rest of the Marvel universe isn't a thing? And then you flip it to the other side, how's Marvel in their future films? Because they released their whole slate. We talked about it, on a previous episode. They released their whole slate for the next few years. No Spider-Man movie plan, which makes sense. Far From Home just came out. But how are they going to explain Spider-Man no longer in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because they set him up to be a major player in this universe. I mean, the Far From Home, a big plot of it was like Peter is now taking up.
Get ready for Avengers Fly Swatter.
They take up like Peter is like he's going to fill that spot that Iron Man left when Iron Man, spoilers, passed away. He's dead.
Where have you been for the last 6 months? This is not our fault at this point.
Yeah. They just can't ignore that. What they're going to have to do is they're going to be like a scene in Thor: Love and Thunder where somebody's like, "We need more help. Who's that bug kid?" And Thor's like, "You mean Ant-Man?" Like, no, the other bug person. Black Widow is dead. How could you bring that up? It's like, no, fuck. We'll just do it by ourselves. How are they going
to... Okay, for the record, not that I'm surprised if Thor doesn't understand science very well, but neither Black Widow nor Spider-Man are bug characters.
Okay, they're arachnids, I know.
Thank you very much. Although sometimes bug normally gets used interchangeably with insect. We could argue that bug also includes arachnids if we wanted to be dicks like I'm being right now.
Yes. That's a nice large dick, so good for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Big dick. But yeah, so here's the thing. At the end of the day, this whole thing is infuriating to me. I mean, I can still remember back when I was a kid, Saturday morning, watching the Spider-Man animated series on Fox. Spider-Man, no matter which fucking way you cut it, is one of the most iconic superheroes in the world. He really is. He's probably Marvel's number one. I bet if they did a poll, which they probably have at some point, Spider-Man would come out number one. He's right up there with the greats. He's right up there with like Batman, Superman on the DC side of things. He's one of the most recognizable superheroes in the world. And to see, and a lot of people are like, oh crap, another Spider-Man reboot. Yeah, I kind of get you there, but it's not just Spider-Man coming back. It's Spider-Man part of the Marvel universe. It's not just him. It's seeing him form a deep, father-son bond with Iron Man. It's see him meeting Captain America and like having little moments like, oh, we're both from like the New York area, you know. It's seeing him growing up and learning and interacting with these other Marvel characters and trying to like act like he's not a kid and trying. It's his interactions with the characters and the impact he can now have on a bigger universe. Because another Spider-Man film is really just him in New York, which is fine. Spidey in New York, fucking peanut butter and jelly right there. But he's still part of the Marvel universe, and Spider-Man isn't always just defending New York. He's sometimes defending the country, sometimes defending the planet, sometimes part of a giant assault to save the fucking universe, which happened earlier this fucking year. But it's not just about Spider-Man, it's about him being a big impact on the universe as a whole. And I'm so disappointed because I've enjoyed the solo films. I've enjoyed Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I know some people don't like him. If you're, I know there's
some people are stupid.
Yeah, they're a minority. If you don't like Tom Holland Spider-Man, fine. I disagree with you. I think he's a really good Spider-Man. You're like, he's too young. I'm like, I think that's a good idea because Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, if you remember, in the Amazing, he was in high school too. Didn't believe he was a high schooler. I'm sorry. That's definitely one of the things I will not defend those movies on. It's like I didn't believe Andrew Garfield was a high schooler for one fucking minute. But yeah, it's just. I don't know, Eric, I'm fucking pissed, man.
If the divorce goes through, you were asking, I think I know what Sony should do. They should just go old school and just do Japanese-produced Spider-Man again.
What was the line he was in that show? I am the emissary of hell, Spider-Man. It made sense in Japan. And then he summons his giant spider robot, Leo, what was it? It had a name like Leotron or something? Leotard?
I don't know. I've never actually seen it. I've only seen trailers.
I've only seen clips. That's how I know. Like that was like he had like a rotating catchphrase apparently, but the one he used most was like, "I'm the emissary of hell, Spider-Man." Like he do his fucking pose. There's even one scene like you look up the clip where he's kind of machine gun, he's just mowing down the bad guys, and then he summons his giant robot, which isn't spider-like. He calls it like Leo or Leopard something. Leopard, I can't fuck. I'm not even gonna bother looking it up.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird.
Yeah. Oh god.
It's a thing. That's a real thing. The 70s were a time that happened.
Yes.
And that was even before cocaine was prolific.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. All we had was acid.
Probably some heroin.
Yeah, but Eric, is there anything else you want to say about this? Because I don't know what else I want to say except I'm pissed.
I mean, like stuff happens, man. Like I think what's getting lost in this whole like, oh, are they getting a divorce? Is how many years ago was the last shitty Fantastic Four film?
Fantastic? I will look that up. I will look that up.
And you, of course, know why I ask, young Vincent.
Why, Eric?
Well, as we just covered, the deal with the acquisition of the comic book rights was you had to make a movie every so many years. And
5 years.
Last Fantastic. And do you know what the contract stipulation is? I believe 7 years.
Yes. Well,
so there's not one slated to come out, or at least start production.
Well, they already have it.
There's another Fantastic. It's happening.
Fantastic Four was owned by Fox, and Disney bought Fox.
Oh wait, that's the one that was okay. I thought that was Fox and not Sony.
No. Sony had Spider-Man and they used to, was that
Ghost Rider?
Yeah, but they got Ghost Rider back a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, Ghost Rider is getting a Hulu series.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you do. Excuse me. Disney Plus, aka Disney streaming service there, Disney Netflix. They have a whole bunch of Marvel shows on there. But for the darker Marvel heroes, they're just having those shows be on Hulu because Disney owns Hulu. So they're getting on Hulu. You're gonna get a Ghost Rider series starring the actor who played Ghost Rider in the Agents of Shield show, and I apologize for getting his name. He's going to be in the upcoming Terminator film as the new evil Terminator. And Hellstrom, which I'm not familiar with that character, so
I think he's from now.
it's a possibility. Or he just works for a hell of a good tip.
I like fire and brimstone and onion dip.
Would you like some of my buffalo chicken dip? Oh God. Shame does not know.
It's from the seventh ring.
But yeah, so the only other thing I'll say about this, I'm totally perplexed as to why Disney's done this. Because they had to have known Sony was going to turn the deal down. It's such a horrible deal for Sony. There's no way they would accept it. They would become Sony's film division would have been the laughing stock of Hollywood. Nobody would have respected them again after that. It's just such a horrible business deal that I'm not quite sure what their idea was. I understand Disney's basically buying up everything nowadays. Did they think they could just steamroll Sony? I mean, they really didn't have too much leverage here when you really think about it.
Well, yes and no. They might be going for a situation, they might be expecting an immediate divorce and then possibly retalk, because the logical thing is for Sony to come back and be like, you know what, hey, we're doing this. We're going to keep doing this. We're never going to not make Spider-Man movies, because no matter how bad they are, people are going to watch them. So if you want to use Spider-Man to make your own Marvel films that we hear allegedly are pretty good, they do okay at the box office, if you want to do that, then you got to give us a piece of the merchandising pie. Otherwise, fuck you. We're just going to cast Ben Affleck as Spider-Man forever, and people will still watch it.
And I'm just picturing Ben Affleck playing like old Peter from Spider-Man.
That actually would have been great.
Like, they paid Jennifer Garner to play old Mary Jane just to make it the cut back Ben Affleck's like, whatever. They stole Batman from it. It could be Peter Parker.
I was so upset about Mary Jane leaving me. Oh, this is too real.
Yeah. Oh my God. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. It's very perplexing to me. I'm sure this is some kind of strategy. I hope it pays off or something. I mean, fuck. I mean, we thought James Gunn was gone forever, but now he's back. So who knows? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. In the mind
well,
of
it's a weird place, Vincent. No one really knows anything. We're all just Jon Snow stumbling around in the dark, hoping we end up in a throne made of swords and shit. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Well, yeah, but that's only because you aren't familiar with George R. Martin's masterpiece, The Song of Fire and Ice.
I am not familiar with it, nor am I familiar with the shit pile that apparently became HBO's Game of Thrones.
Sometimes you know what,
hindsight's a bitch slap.
Sometimes we just try really hard, but at the end we're just like, oh, yeah, the final season was really just X3.
All right, well, anyway. Man. I wish I could. I just want to go a couple months without talking about Disney, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. Because if it's not this, if it's not
Wait, so we're changing the topic of our podcast?
Shut up. What's Disney gonna buy next? I feel like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning and there's gonna be a tattoo of Mickey Mouse on my dick, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck is copy? How you copyright a dick? How does that work?
What if they just copyright for dick in general? Like, no, all your children are actually owned by Disney if you have them now, because we copyright all penises.
We copyrighted sperm. We've copyrighted molecules. So if you made a molecule,
You actually owe us dividends if you have a child. You have to pay us annuities.
Oh man. One of these days Disney's gonna fall like fucking Rome. The only question is, who are the barbarians that are gonna invade the capital? Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be, ladies and gentlemen?
Global warming or an asteroid. Oh, that's what it's gonna like. Disney is going to be the last gasp of humanity.
It won't be any of that, because that never happens. They'll activate their defense shield over Disneyland.
I'm laughing because you're probably right.
And then a 40-year-old recording of Walt Disney before he dies, like, come, be safe in Disneyland.
Unless you're Jewish, then you're not allowed.
Oh! Sorry. Anyway. Alright, so we spent like a half an hour talking about Spider-Man, which I don't think we could have done less than that.
Yep, and then we just closed with anyone who doesn't understand that Walt Disney was anti-Semitic thinking that I'm anti-Semitic.
No, Eric is definitely not anti-Semitic. We do not allow anti-Semites here on the POVincent or the River's Edge online radio network at large.
Prejudice of any type is awful.
Yes.
Double fuck you if you're going to have any sort of hate towards anything involving latkes. That's just, come on now.
Anyway, let's talk about something else.
They're delicious. I'm just saying.
Okay. Let's talk about The Matrix. Surprise, you didn't expect that fucking turn, did you? So if it wasn't for Spider-Man, it probably would have been the big...
Not owned by Sony or Disney.
Yes. This probably would have been the big story of the week. But ladies and gentlemen, we talked about in a previous episode about upcoming Matrix sequel. Pretty early stuff, not a lot to talk about. But now we got some new information. So ladies and gentlemen, Lana Wachowski, who was one of the original directors, is set to write and direct the fourth film set in the world of The Matrix, with Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss reprising their roles as Neo and Trinity, respectively. This article was posted on Variety.com. Once again, we have it posted to Facebook and Twitter if you want to check out the article yourselves. That's pretty much the big information here. There's little bits of interview talks in the article, which I recommend you guys check out if you're interested. But yeah, Matrix 4, I'm still a little perplexed about another Matrix movie coming out because, obviously Matrix 1, massive hit, had a big impact on action films and, in the film industry at the time. Then 2 and 3 came out and they were just not nearly as well received as the first one. But regardless, the movie did have a clear ending point. It didn't seem like they were setting it up for any future stuff. I mean, I guess there were maybe a few loose ends, but not to make another movie. I think, if I remember correctly, the closest thing never came previously to a fourth movie, or I should say a fourth storyline. But I remember there was a video game many years ago where you were played as Morpheus, and where the machines have not given up Neo's body to humanity to be buried and honored, and he's has to go back into the Matrix to talk to people and get information. But I gotta say, I think we'll keep this short because, we spent so much time on Spider-Man. We're going to get to our movie review. Why? Why are we doing another...
Money!
Besides money! Is it...
What time out? What do you mean there are things other than money?
What about art?
Oh, if art were real, Disney would own everything.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued.
They definitely own Banksy. Banksy is actually just Mickey Mouse in disguise. 100%.
Oh, I put the painting in a shredder. Oh.
Oh, I love your voices, man.
Thank you, Eric.
But money, that's the reason.
I know.
Maybe like the Wachowskis are on board. Maybe there's an actual plot for this. Like, not only did the third one end, like you said, with like most things wrapped up, but also like it took some weird turns, and like it seems like it's a hard spot to continue the plot from where they're at with the same characters.
Yeah, because
Is Neo dead?
Well, here's the thing. It looks like he's dead, but then I guess the rumor is like he's still alive. I don't know if he's physically alive or maybe like his mind because they say at the end of the movie, like the Oracle says, like, will we ever see like the little girl, whatever her name was? She was like, will we ever gonna see Neo again? And Oracle says, something like, I'm sure we will someday. So it's possible that Neo's consciousness is still alive somewhere in the Matrix, but his body is dead because it looks like he's pretty dead at the end of the movie. Because he does the thing where he's like, oh, and then he goes, limp. Oh, and then he goes limp. They're pretty dead most of the time.
Just kidding, guys. Got you good, fuckers.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'd be okay if like they did like a digital, like his digital spirit is part of the Matrix, and it's like kind of always there to bring comfort or something, but not like something you can communicate with, because it kind of makes his sacrifice at the end of the third movie seem pretty hollow. If he's, let's be, Neo is digital Jesus, so Jesus technically came back from the dead, but not like 14 years after. He came back pretty quickly, under a week.
All I'm getting out of this is that Neo in the fourth movie is going to be Ghost Writer. Not Ghost Rider, Ghost Writer. Are you a big enough nerd, or did you have a sad and oppressed childhood? Fingers up there.
I remember the show. I did not watch it very often, but I remember the show Ghost Writer. Not Writer, ladies. It was a little dot
on PBS.
On PBS.
About a ghost.
Right after
wrote to kids.
Yeah. Right after what was the show with the dog? Milkbone? No.
Something bone. Wishbone.
Wishbone.
Yes.
Right after Wishbone. When no one gave a shit.
That dog could fucking act.
He could. And damn it, he could do it. He pulled it off magnificently. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really say I'm excited for a fourth Matrix film. I mean, maybe if the third film had done better, I might still be a little amped. I'm like a lot of people. I don't hate the second and third films. They just, I don't know. It feels like eh. Plus, I think I'm still pissed about Jupiter Ascending, even though we're like 3 years away from that. So, which was the last big movie the Wachowskis did.
Oh, they did that.
They did that, yes.
I don't even.
Yeah, which kind of put them in movie jail because that movie cost $170 million, and it did. I don't even think it broke even, if I remember correctly. I think the only reason why, I think it's one, A, The Matrix is a known property, and they know they can make money off it. And two, I don't watch the show Sense8, but I've been told the Wachowskis are behind that show, and the popularity of that show probably revives them a bit.
They did a nice job to the point that the show got canceled, but was still able to get a movie film to conclude the final the second season. That was also really impressive, both visually and storytelling wise. Would recommend this series.
Recommendation from Eric. All right. Well, that's all we got to say about that, because like I said, really not much more information to say right now. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get on to our movie review of the evening. It's time to talk about the third movie in the Has Fallen franchise. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Angel Has Fallen. This movie, once again, stars
Jamie Foxx, and it has what's the movie series that's just like this but with different actors?
I think it was White House Down.
Yes,
yeah, with Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx.
That's who it is.
But that movie wasn't as fun. So this movie stars Gerard Butler once again coming back as Secret Service agent Mike Banning. In the first film, Olympus Has Fallen, Mike Banning had to save the president, played by Aaron Eckhart, from a terrorist attack on the White House. In the second movie, he had to defend the president, once again played by Aaron Eckhart, through the streets of London as a major terrorist attack was trying to take out a peace summit among many world leaders. In the third film, Aaron Eckhart's president has finished his term, and the new president is Morgan Freeman, who played, I believe he was the Secretary of State in the previous films. I can't remember his exact position, but Morgan Freeman's the president now. And in the film, there is an assassination attempt made on the president, and Gerard Butler's character, Mike Banning, is framed for this attack. And he must now avoid law enforcement while at the same time find the evidence to prove his innocence. I like the first movie, Olympus Has Fallen. It's pretty much a straightforward action film. It's directed by Antoine Fuqua, who we all know has experience in that, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. The second one, not quite as good. It just, I don't know, it just never kind of got that same oomph that the first one did. And it wasn't, it was directed by a different director who I have to take another look at it because I forget what the director's name was. It was, oh, that's why I forgot what it was because it's Babak Najafi. I'm unfamiliar with Babak's work. And hell, this film is actually, once again, different director. Rick Roman Wow? No, wow. So yeah, it's odd that each one of these movies has had a different director. And if you watch all of them, you can see the differences between them. I mean, the lighting and cinematography in this one is definitely different than the other ones.
I think what's odder is for the third one, they just decided to remake The Fugitive.
Yeah, you definitely got the fugitive on the run aspect. So let's talk about this movie. Once again, Gerard Butler is back as Mike Banning. His character is going through some different stuff this time. The first movie, he was trying to find his, go reestablish his calling in life to be a Secret Service agent. In the second movie, he was kind of like at a point where he's about to become a father and had to make decisions on what that meant for his life and his wife. In this movie, due to his time in the army and his action-filled adventures, being a Secret Service member, his character now has suffered multiple concussions and has insomnia, and he's having this really bad physical and mental problems. Not to the point where he's like, lost his mind or anything, but it's definitely affecting his work. So, so it's definitely him trying to decide whether or not he should continue as a Secret Service member, take a new job, or just retire altogether. And for a character like his, who's like he's a soldier, he's a warrior, and he always wants to keep fighting. He's one of the characters like he always wants to be in the Secret Service. That's where he wants to be. Protecting the president, doing his thing. So it's really him struggling with what to do next. As for the action in this film is really solid. I gotta say, I enjoyed it a lot. A lot of use of of pistols in the film. Mike Banning seems most comfortable using a handgun. There's multiple points in the film where he could pick off a rifle off of somebody. He seems to stick with his handgun for some reason. I'm not sure why. That confused me a little bit.
I think it's honestly because it looks more badass.
I gotta
in
say,
a
yeah,
weird
when
way.
you got 10 guys with assault rifles coming at you, even if it's even if it's like not military grade, yeah, I got you there. But not saying he never picks up an assault rifle in the movie. He just seems a little too oddly comfortable for a guy who's former military with a handgun. But fuck, he makes it work. So whatever. Yeah. So
he doesn't need to. He can just kill him and be like, and also I have a big dick. That's why I can use a small handgun.
A new character to the franchise is Clay Banning, Mike Banning's estranged father, played by Nick Nolte. And I haven't seen Nick Nolte in anything in a while. And ladies and gentlemen, Nick Nolte's new character, this new character in the film that he's playing, I gotta be honest, loved him. He was great. Great. He plays.
Love talk there, buddy.
Yeah.
You got.
He plays grumpy ex-war veteran. Great. He's so fucking entertaining.
Oh wait, so he plays the same character he's always played?
Sure.
The same character he was in Tropic Thunder? The same character who he basically is in 48 Hours? Hey, I'm grumpy, and also I've got some sort of knowledge of how to use a gun.
Sure. But no, it's actually pretty fun. He brings a levity that the other films really haven't had. Like actually really funny moments because the two characters are estranged from each other. Like he left Mike when he was just a kid and all that stuff. And you find out that he is a Vietnam War veteran. And apparently he came back with like PTSD or something of that nature. And his mental state was so bad that he didn't trust himself around his family, so he left. And he first comes off as this old weird guy that lives in the woods, and he's like all about Big Brother. It's like, yeah, I gotta stay off the grid and all this shit. And he's really funny, especially these moments where you find out, yeah, even though he's really fucking old, he still got it. He kicks some ass in his own right, ladies and I gotta say, when he does it with this, like, fuck this shit kind of figure. It's great. It's really fucking like most of the movie. I'm just kind of like, I'm laughing. It was really good. I wasn't expecting that from the film. I expected it to be all serious and grit. And he does kind of help, like I said, because Butler's character is dealing with the fact of what to do with his life because he's a warrior that doesn't want to stop being a warrior. And Nick Nolte's like, hey, look what happened to me. Really think about what you're doing here. You know, like you can be pissed off at me if you want, but look what happened to me after war. And you know, if you don't watch it, you're gonna end up like me. So, you know, you got that thing going on. They don't go real deep into it. It's mostly surface level shit, and that's fine because this movie is a straightforward action film. It's not trying to be like The Dark Knight and delve into deeper things.
They're not trying to, you know, imitate Sony and win an Oscar. So you were asking some questions about Sony. I think the real quick. I don't think will Sony ever win another Oscar. Okay, back to Angels Fall.
Yeah, back to Angels Fall. So yeah, something that did bother me about the special effects budget. Could have used a little bit more money because there's moments where they have explosions and there's smoke and dust, and I'm like, that is not real smoke and dust. That does not look good. That is so blatantly, you're like, oh, you guys are totally on a green screen right now. I can tell it. It's really like it's almost like TV movie kind of level. Yeah. Like not the worst TV movie, but okay, if it was a TV movie, I could like let it go, but it's not.
I never want to see direct to DVD on the big screen.
Yeah,
Never.
no. Another thing I will bring up is it was kind of odd. Like there's some mystery around who the villains are, like who's framed them. One of the villains, I could tell right away they were going to be the villain. It wasn't like so fucking obvious. But at least they got a good actor to play one of the villains in the film. The other villain I will not reveal because that was a little better handled, but I'm sure there'll be people watching it that probably figured it out. Angel Has Fallen. Do I recommend this film or do I not recommend this film?
Is the angel risen or is it Icarus again?
Yeah. The movie has some problems. It's nothing unique or special, but for a straightforward action film and it's part of an ongoing franchise, honestly, I really enjoyed it. I don't regret going to see it, and I will give Angel Has Fallen the POVincent recommendation.
It wins.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have this week for the POVincent podcast. I want to thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. And follow the Rivers Edge online radio network and plays nothing but great local Pittsburgh music. And please also follow us on Twitch where we are currently doing our live streams. And I just want to thank you guys all for tuning in. It's been a great time talking movies, even if it's about the sadness state of Spider-Man. And what can you do, ladies and gentlemen? I'll see you next week. Take it easy.